Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of H.R. 3846, the United States Customs and Border Protection Authorization Act, and I certainly want to thank my colleagues. First of all, the chairman of the full Homeland Security Committee, Mr. McCall, and our ranking member, Mr. Thompson, and my ranking member on the subcommittee, Ms. Jackson-Lee. The Homeland Security Committee, again, has a very strong history of collaboration and bipartisanship, as you just saw with the last bill that we discussed. And this bill, I think, illustrates our ability to find consensus as we work to strengthen the homeland. It's a very important day, not only for the men and women of the Customs and Border Protection, CBP, but also, I think, for the U.S. House of Representatives. This past week actually marked the 10-year anniversary of the release of the 9/11 Commission's recommendation to Congress. And while most of these recommendations were implemented, unfortunately several remained unfulfilled or incomplete. And among one of the most important incomplete recommendations was for Congress to create a single principal point of oversight and review for Homeland Security. The fractured jurisdiction over the Department of Homeland Security has certainly limited Congress's ability to provide effective guidance to the third largest agency in the federal government. In the 10 years since the department was created, it had never had a comprehensive reauthorization. And as a result, components such as Customs and Border Protection have never been authorized in statute since being transferred to the Department of Homeland Security through the Homeland Security Act of 2002. And while there remain several committees with overlapping oversight of the Department of Homeland Security, I believe that this legislation that's on the floor today is a testament that this body can still work together to fulfill Congress's primary responsibilities under the Constitution. And as I mentioned, Mr. Speaker, CBP, with more than 44,000 law enforcement officers and agents, never been formally authorized in statute. And as a result, CBP operates on devolved authority granted to the Secretary of Homeland Security and on guidance provided by Congress through annual appropriation bills, really, rather than specific authority accorded to the component by its authorizers. H.R. 3846, again, the United States Customs and Border Protection Authorization, is the first attempt by the Congress since the passage of the Homeland Security Act of 2002 and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security to clearly delineate the current authorities and responsibilities of the largest federal law enforcement entity in our nation. The fact that this agency has been operating for as long as they have without a clear statutory mandate from Congress and the American people certainly is a problem that needs to be corrected. The Homeland Security Act, when passed nearly 12 years ago, was sort of a snapshot in time that reflects the choices made by Congress to quickly cobble together 22 agencies. Now is the time to update the statute and to make changes where necessary to reflect the current security missions of the Department within CBP, which have significantly evolved over the last decade. I'll just give you an example. After DHS was created, most of the authority for the work CBP currently performs was vested actually in a position called the Undersecretary of Border and Transportation Security. And if you haven't heard of it lately, it's because it was eliminated by then Secretary Chertoff in 2005. Nonetheless, this position remains in law. So this bill, I use that as an example, but this bill is really a first step in fixing outdated provisions from the source legislation that created the department. Congress has a responsibility to give the Department of Homeland Security and its components the necessary direction through the regular authorization process, and this measure is a very important first step in doing so. This bill provides a basic outline of the missions and responsibilities that we give to the Commissioner of CBP and its subcomponents, such as the Office of Field Operations, the United States Border Patrol, the Office of Air and Marine Operations, the Office of Intelligence and Investigative Liaison, the Office of International Affairs, so that they know what this Congress expects. In addition to fixing the outdated provisions in the law, this legislation goes a long way in ensuring transparency and oversight in CBP. This bill also contains strong accountability measures to ensure that agents and officers respect civil rights, civil liberties, and use force policies, especially with regard to the use of deadly force. With the ongoing crisis of unaccompanied children crossing the border in ever greater numbers, making sure that we understand the root causes of the surge is vitally important as well. And this bill includes a provision that takes a very hard look at why these children are coming so that we can provide the men and women of the Border Patrol and CBP the tools to stem the tide. Issues like the recent surge remind us of why we need to continually update the authorities of key law enforcement agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. CBP's mission continues to change, and this Congress has a duty to give our officers and the agents proper authorities to carry out their important work. Finally, I want to commend the work and the assistance of CBP and the Department of Homeland Security over the past 2 years as we started the intricate task, really, of cleaning up the Homeland Security Act. Their assistance really helped to make this bill much better. And I would urge my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, to support this good government, common sense legislation.